this is the reason why we're here, right? All of them have different diagnostic journeys, different challenges that they deal with on a daily basis, but they all have something in common, that there's no therapy available right now for their loved one. And so, that's what we're hoping to change, one patient at a time. And so I'm just going to introduce everybody who's not sitting in order. So on the end is Shanna. She is mom to Ireland, and you might have seen Shanna putting Stan on the spot for our first Q&A that we did on our podcast, and so she was great. Stuck in some really hard questions, which was good. Beside her is Kelly. Kelly is mom to Connor, who is patient 001 that Stan was referring to this morning. And so very happy to have you here. She came all the way from San Diego. I should mention that Shanna came from Georgia. So they came from all over. It wasn't just like, oh, I'll come down the street and talk for 5 minutes. It's like, no, I'm going to fly out here to participate. Luke in the middle. Father of Susanna. Susanna has actually been on treatment for a year now, and we have a video that we're going to play at the end of this panel. I'm going to try not to cry all the way through it. And then Clayton is from Tampa Bay, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so we just started getting these cards, and so we're at the office, and all these mail starts coming in, and there's these thank you cards, and they're like, thank you for taking Moston as a patient, thank you for, and we, not just one, not 10, not 20, almost 100 of these thank you cards started coming in last year around Christmas time. And so we're like, we got to find who this person is, So Clayton is Moston's dad, and they're here today, and I really appreciate it. And if you were here at the reception last night, you heard beautiful violin by Moston's mom, so really appreciate it. And then probably our longest journey here from Poland is Piotr. Piotr, did I butcher it too badly? Almost. Okay. Father of Lena, one of a set of twins, and so why don't we start with you, Kelly, and turn it over to you.
Sure. Like Amy said, my name's Kelly, and my son, he's 14 years old today. His name's Connor, and when I walked in this morning, I was so happy to see all of the people here today. And in 2019, I was at a conference, and I saw Stan, and we were talking, and he told me he had the idea of n-Lorem, and to see what it is today. n-Lorem represents our hope, my family's hope, and it's our happy ending. And 14 years ago, my life was very, very different. I was very naive. I thought that when people got sick, they went to the doctor, they got a medicine, and most patients were okay. And Connor's my second son. I was a high school English teacher at the time. And from a couple days old, I noticed something was very off about him. He cried the majority of the time. He had trouble feeding. And even before he had his first seizure at 8 months old, we were in and out of the hospital. And he had very thorough workups, and all of these tests kept coming back normal. He had so many different symptoms, seizures being the most debilitating at the time. We were trialing every single medication available. And at one time, he was on a dozen medications for every symptom and still deteriorating. And we were being told a lot of what I consider today just ridiculous statements about, from doctors, take your son home and love him while he's still here. We don't know what's wrong with him. And I was obsessed with getting a diagnosis. I thought if we just got a diagnosis, there would be a treatment available. And, I was flying my son all over the country. And when he finally got whole exome sequencing and he got a diagnosis, it was an apology. It was, your son has an SCN2A mutation. I'm sorry, we don't know much about it, and we have nothing available to offer you. And it was devastating. And I started with scientists at USD and just started calling scientists in the area, trying to find someone that knew something about this disease. And I'm a parent, I have 3 kids at home, 1 in and out of the hospital, and I'm being told that if you want this disease studied, you're gonna have to fund it yourself. You're gonna have to raise money, you're gonna have to find scientists. And to make a very long story short, I have 5 minutes. I ended up starting a biotech company, and I worked for years on a molecule that I thought was gonna help my son. And our scientist a couple years into that called me and said, Kelly, I'm so sorry, but Connor's not a candidate for this molecule. His mutation is very unique, it's mixed function. Connor's gonna need allele-specific knockdown. He's gonna need his own ASO, his own molecule, and who is going to make a drug for one child? And it was the most devastated I'd been in this entire process. And a few months later, I was at the TIDES conference in San Diego, and I was listening to Stan speak on Spinraza, and I went up to say hello. And I asked him what he was doing, and he said he has an idea to start a foundation devoted to N of 1 patients where they have very unique mutations and to use ASOs. And it was like almost the twilight zone for me. It was exactly to a T what I thought my son needed. And I emailed him a few days later, and I went to meet with them, and I brought our scientist and another parent, and we looked at all the science of my son's mutation, and he thought that there was a potential that this could help him. And as soon as it became available, I applied to n-Lorem, and we're patient 001. And you know, it's been a really challenging path, but what n-Lorem represents today, I mean, my son, his life's a roller coaster. It's up and down. He has good days and not so good days, but he's going to be treated with an ASO this year. And I'm so grateful that my son's life, one child, there's a team of scientists and doctors and donors all for my son. So it's a tragic diagnosis, but it's also really exciting times for genetics and the potential of, you know, what's possible. So that's it.
Thank you, Kelly. I think Clayton, you're up.
Thanks for your interest in our son's journey. Mawson is our only child. He was born precisely on his due date by natural birth following a healthy pregnancy. My wife, his mother, is extremely talented. She was a professional violinist and toured with Rod Stewart, Andrea Bocelli, Styx, David Navarro, Tommy Lee, to name a few. Her mother was a model. Her father was a professional football player, played in the NFL, Canadian Football League, and American Football League. And he currently holds the record for the longest punt in the world. My father was a professional golfer for a little while, and then I'm not sure what happened to me, but Mawson clearly has some rare genes, and unfortunately, one of those genes has a severe, very unfortunate misspelling. He's the only known case with his particular variant on a gene called KCNB1, and that variant causes him to have some severe medical challenges. When Mawson was 4, he had floppy wrists, and kids started making fun of him, adults started making fun of him, and we tried everything we could, kinetic tape, TENS units, massage, physical therapy, exercises, nothing seemed to work. And then one day I came home with a baseball glove, we started playing catch, and Mawson has been wearing a glove. Mawson's been wearing a glove every day for the past 8 years, and he's fallen in love with baseball, and his wrists are no longer floppy. When he was 5 years old, he had been working really hard. He could say nearly 100 words, and he was able to run, he was able to climb stairs, he was able to swim, and he could dance like Michael Jackson. He was out of control. He was so fast. And then on December 16th, 2031, my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen on 2031. I hope we're going to make it there. But 2016, on December 31st, 2016, he suffered his first very violent tonic-clonic seizure. And within a few weeks, he was having 4 different types of seizures and as many as 30 tonic-clonic seizures a day. He ended up being hospitalized in Orlando, and the 3rd day we were there, a doctor came into his room and wrote LGS on the board, and she explained to us that our son had Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. I asked her what that meant, and I asked her what it meant for his life expectancy, and she just began to cry, and I'm thinking this must be bad, and she left the room before she'd come back in. Unfortunately, baseball gloves cannot cure Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. Since then, our seizures have stripped our son of his ability to walk at times, his ability to eat, his ability to swallow. He relies on a feeding tube, and on tough days like today, he convulses over and over. His oxygen level drops. He turns blue. he chokes, he vomits, and he wakes up with a painful ringing in his ears. And he loses his balance, his ability to walk, and he gets very scared of the next seizure to come for him. We can hold him, or we can try to comfort him, but we can't protect him from the next seizure. And unfortunately, the anticonvulsants have not been able to suppress his seizures fully either, and they come with a lot of side effects. They can suppress his heart rate, his blood pressure, and his breathing. They're so strong, it's almost like he's been in a trance for the past 7 years. And sometimes we look back at videos of things our son was able to do before seizures, and it's really sad, watching how much he's declined. Beyond the decline, we know that there's a very high mortality rate associated with Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. Death has come for our son so many times, we don't know when it's going to come for him again. I could give you countless examples of how hard Mawson's worked and his relentless efforts, of our efforts, and of his amazing doctor's efforts. But what matters more is this. For the past 7 years, we've been using medications to manage symptoms, and Mawson has been declining. We're so grateful n-Lorem has accepted his case. The work that n-Lorem is doing gives us hope that Mawson may one day stop declining and have the opportunity to make sustainable forward progress.
Thank you, Clayton.
Sorry.
I think you got us all choked up here. Here too.
So basically, I just wanted to start by saying that I want to echo Tom's word about the fact that emotions are very intensive, and this is why basically we decided with my wife to draw the line, and just to show you like the roller coaster we're going through with Lena and with the twins basically. But before getting there, I have a feeling that the rare disease overall kind of hunted me way before that. So you wouldn't believe that my passport that I got into US with was issued on the 28th of February. As you know, this is Rare Disease Day. That was the first thing, and it happened like a couple of years ago, way before I found out that we were going to have twins. And then 2.5 years ago, when my wife was pregnant, I've joined Biogen, and back then I had no idea that one of my kids is going to have ultra rare genetic condition. So there were like some kind of signs, like happening way before the actual moment that we started to find out that something is wrong with Lena. So basically, as a parent, because our kids, our twins, are our first kids. So before that, people are going through up and downs. But the emotions, the roller coaster, you kind of start to feel and experience the moment you get kids is hard to describe. And that was, you can see all the way up the moment that the twins were born in September 2021. Everything was going well. We were like happy and just waiting for the kids to, just to look like, just to see them in the world. And then Christmas Eve came. And yeah, I have some kind of, let's say, a strange connection with this kind of dates, like Christmas Eve. I'll tell you, like Rare Disease Day on the 28th of February, my passport. And the moment we started to recover from the sleepless nights, because I can tell you, twins is not an easy thing to manage. The Christmas Eve came, and Lena started to have grand mal status epilepticus, 30 seizures in 48 hours. So we rushed to the hospital, and that was the first massive hit. And something that maybe it's not like easily seen on the slide is that there was a second baby. So like my wife, she was at the hospital, like having the kind of experiencing the seizure like every hour and a half, while there was a second one at home. And I was like kind of single parent before we kind of started to basically take care of the seizures of Lena. And I remember myself, it was during COVID times, I was rushing between home and the hospital to get the milk. So that I was basically kind of entering hospital illegal during COVID times just to get the milk for the second one. So that was like a huge roller coaster. And after a few days, we started to recover slowly because our doctor, she like made all the tests, MRI, spinal fluid, everything looked fine. And she started to have kind of pre-diagnosis of the GLUT1. But then, a couple of weeks later, the gene panel ruled it out. Gene panel didn't show anything, basically. But then she said that the thing, and I want to basically like echo your words, that there's like one last thing we can try, which is called whole exome sequencing. It's available commercial, but obviously thanks to the fact that we both work in the corporate world, we were able to kind of afford that basically overnight. And we're like so waiting for the results. Normally back then it took like 5-6 weeks. For some reasons, after 2 weeks we already had the result. And another kind of symbolic date, we found out about the PAX diagnosis during Valentine's Day. And that was like the second massive dip you can see on the slide, and that's basically kind of the straight road to the depression. To like there are like many things like going through your head. However, now if I look back, and if you can go to the next one, now if I look back, I had a feeling that was the kind of the starting point. So looking back, like more than a year ago, it's like at some point you think it's like it's done, it's game over completely. And looking back for us, it was just the beginning. So obviously we were grieving, and on the next slide you can see our emotions going up again. We were grieving, but at the same time we decided to act quickly. I was always open, always vocal, always transparent. So countless people at Biogen found out about my situation. People were teaching me genetics. I have business background, so I was trying to understand all about ASO, how it works, what is the ASO screening and stuff like that. So I've discovered n-Lorem through basically 2 ways. The one way was basically Biogen employees that told me that, hey, there's this n-Lorem thing, and maybe your kid could get there. And also, I very quickly connected with other parents, mainly from US, and that they also told me that there's this thing that Stan decided to set up to help nano-rare patients. So I remember another date, my wife's birthday, where we were on the call with Wendy Chang for the first time. So these dates are just hunting me all the time. And as you can see, we started like slowly to recover. And we also decided to open the research foundation because PAX2 was first described in 2018. Nothing is known about this syndrome almost. We have no idea what is the mechanism of action. But like basically it doesn't really matter because we just want to kind of treat the patient without knowing fully and understanding fully what is causing the disease. However, we wanted to kind of give back something to the community, so we started the foundation. We started to get in touch with many different parents, which are kind of calling us every night, almost every day, trying to kind of learn something from us. And then September 2022 came. So exactly 1 year later, during Lena's first birthday, we got the information that it seems that the PAX2 could be the way to be treated with the ASO, with the allele-specific approach. And when I think about the n-Lorem, it makes me think about the rocket, as you can see here. So the moment that and we know it's like there's no guarantees, right? But I have a feeling that we are basically part of a big group building the rocket, and maybe at some point we'll be able to get in and just take our daughter and just fly to the moon.
Thank you. Shanna?
Good morning. I'm going to stick to my notes because I'm an emotional person anyway, and then I had my daughter Ireland, and it just really sent me over the edge. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about my precious 8-year-old daughter Ireland. She's on the left in the middle picture with her little sister Brooke, who is 4. The top or the bottom left picture is Ireland shortly after birth when she was taken to the NICU. They called her a jittery baby, and she had a couple of episodes of apnea where she just randomly stopped breathing. And they did 1 million tests, couldn't really find anything wrong. And a veteran NICU nurse, I'll never forget it, she looked at me and said, "There's something wrong, we just don't know what." So we go home with our new baby and trying to enjoy her, and she's a little bit delayed, the tail ends of the developmental milestones. And then at 6 months old, she was sleeping on my chest because she was a terrible sleeper. We now know why. And she started convulsing, and I had never seen anybody have a seizure before, but I knew immediately she's having a seizure. So we call 911, and few more seizures follow from there, and our incredible team at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta immediately did genetic testing, and so we got a pretty quick diagnosis of a CAC NA1A mutation. And so, as you've heard, you have this answer, but no treatment options are available. Ireland's particular variant is neurodegenerative. It causes intractable epilepsy, ataxia, global developmental delays, cognitive impairment. She has an autism diagnosis and severe hemiplegic migraines. And her seizures are all or nothing. She's not having daily seizures, but when she does, they're always status epilepticus. She requires multiple rescue drugs. She has a very unconventional rescue protocol because none of the FDA-approved rescue drugs have ever stopped her seizures. She's been intubated 9 times for status. That's the right picture. So we spent a lot of time in ICU. We always carry an emergency bag everywhere we go with her little mobile pharmacy, an ambu bag, because she also stops breathing, turns blue, and it's status, so the seizure's not stopping, she's blue, so the responsibility is really on us to support her respiration. And she has a little nasopharyngeal airway, which is a little tube that goes in her nose to lift the tongue off the back of her throat so that the air can get in. So thankfully, thanks to her care team in Atlanta, we do have this very aggressive rescue protocol. And I think it's the only reason she's as functional as she is. But we live in constant fear of the next big neurological event being the one that changes her forever. And I think we've had good care and we've been lucky and God is taking care of her so far, but we never know when we're gonna miss one. So when she was first diagnosed, we were told that she was the only known person in the entire world with her particular variant, no treatment options available. She's tried a long list of anti-epileptic drugs and various other therapies. She's had epilepsy surgery. And the cocktail that she's currently on seems to lessen seizures, but not without greatly sacrificing quality of life. She's very sensitive. I think all of our kids are very sensitive she's very sensitive to medication side effects. And so with the biggest, for her, behavioral side effects are really difficult to manage. Ireland, let's see. And none of these drugs address the root cause of her symptoms, which is her CACNA1A variant, and they're really only pitiful attempts at seizure reduction. Her variant affects every single aspect of our lives. When she's not battling seizures and recovering and medication side effects, we do get a glimpse of what I call the real Ireland. And she's bright-eyed, happy, giggly, she's funny, she's got a great sense of humor. And she's really just an angel. And I know I'm her mother, but she is. Let's see. 2.5 years ago, we found out that Ireland's n-Lorem application was accepted. This opportunity is what every Nano-rare patient and family dreams of. In August of that year, we had the opportunity to sit down with Stan and Roseanne in Atlanta. And I don't really remember what was said during that meeting, but I remember how we felt. And we know that n-Lorem is 100% committed to doing the very best they can to find an optimal ASO for Ireland. For years, I felt like the burden of trying to figure this out for her was entirely on my shoulders. I Googled till my eyes hurt. I contacted research. Anybody who had published on CACNA1A got a contact from me. It's such, I can't tell you the tremendous sigh of relief knowing that somebody else is kind of picking this up for her and carrying the torch to try to fix it for her. Our entire family has been praying since her diagnosis for healing for her, and it is our hope that n-Lorem is the answer to that prayer. I I just want, just to close, take a minute to acknowledge the initial patient families and their care team and the doctors who have supported their applications and are committed to carrying this through to treatment. I know that the knowledge gained from these pioneer families will greatly impact Ireland's experience, and I'm very grateful to all of you as well.
Thank you.
Can I just say
Yes.
one quick thing?
Yes.
Just thank you all. Adding to what Stan, in the very beginning, you saw a video of Susanna standing up. That was the first time she stood in 3 years. She had lost the ability to stand. And at the time, my father was dying of cancer. And that night, I went to visit him in the hospital and showed him videos of Susanna standing up for the first time in so many years. And he died a few days later, and it was almost as if he, wanted to have this gift that you've given us. So I told Amy that I wouldn't talk because I can't go for 5 minutes without crying, even though I have these. But anyway, I wanted to tell you what that video meant to me.
And thank you for sharing it with us, and we could share it with the community. I think, at the end of this panel, we have another professionally produced video that Biogen has done for us about Susanna's journey through her treatment. And I was really going to play it while we're all up here, but I think maybe what we'll do is we'll come off the stage and we'll play the video, and then we'll move to the next section. Before we do that, Luke, is there anything else that you would like to say before we play Susanna's journey?
I don't think so. I think that the whole point of what we're doing is to galvanize a community of nano-rare families. And if we all don't put our shoulders behind that, be it with resources or awareness or whatever, then it's just going to be more difficult. So I wanted to thank everybody in here for putting your shoulder behind that galvanized community and to continue doing that. It means the world to families like ours, and that's all.
Thank you, thank you. And can we get a hand for our patients up here?
Every bold and real scientific endeavor in the history of the world starts with an N of 1. That bold endeavor is starting with Susanna and n-Lorem and this fleet of people who have come around to power this thing to work for Susanna and other kids. Susanna was 18 months when we started realizing that something was needed to be addressed.
She was in the bath, and instead of actually kicking her little legs, Miss Susanna picked her legs up by the knee herself and kind of made herself do a little kick. Part of me was like, does she think that's what it's supposed to be? Or is this the only way that she can? And we were worried.
We were worried. Susanna started treatment with her ASO that was designed specifically for her in November of 2022. That would be so incredible if things were less severe for Susanna and she could participate in things that she can't, and if all of a sudden those feet that are in horrific pain aren't in that much pain, and she was smiling instead of crying all the time.
Susanna has always loved the water. Susanna had developed this, I call it the mermaid, where she wasn't able to kick her legs independently. And then I had this moment of having a new present knew what is here that filled me with hope. And that was seeing Susanna swimming and kicking her legs.
In sync.
And like kicking back and forth. Doing it, like freely getting her legs going up and down and splashing through the water and making her way from one end of the pool to the other. And it was just...
It was no longer therapy in the pool. It was a little girl swimming.
It was a little girl swimming. I think we have been really lucky and able to see some ways that there were things we thought that maybe we had lost, or skills that she had that were slipping away, that we feel like maybe she's gotten her grasp back on. But I had never seen her kick before. I had never seen that before, and that was a new thing. And really all we want is for her. We want her to live. That's our hope. And I am so happy with her just not getting worse. But to be so overjoyed with something new, yeah, that was pretty remarkable.
And this is a hard thought to think of, but imagine if we got this therapy when she was 2.
Oh, go Susanna, go Susanna.
Let's see you get up the way you got up before. Yes, Susanna. Yeah!
Imagine if other people can have this therapy when they're 2. Here's a note from the teacher. Great day for Susanna in reading.
It was my alphabet.
Lucky them.
Yeah. But we'll take it.
The really lucky us. Because we have her.
Dad, come on, I'll teach you how to stand up.
Teach me how to stand up too.